Ravens fans, did you see what happened to Marlon Humphrey after that historic play against the Steelers? The interception that turned into a pick-6, giving us a crucial lead and dominating our biggest rivals. It should have been all joy, right? But instead, Humphrey found himself in the middle of a controversy with the NFL. And the worst part, an unexpected fine. You'll understand what really happened, what the NFL overlooked, and how this could affect our team. I know you're asking yourself, did he really deserve this? Stay with me until the end, because you're going to see details that will surprise you. And more importantly, you'll understand why this story goes far beyond a simple penalty and how it affects the future of the Ravens. Let's find out together if Marlon Humphrey was wrong, or if the league really did what it had to do. Go Ravens! The game between the Ravens and Steelers was one of those matchups that will stick in every fan's memory. In the final moments, when the game was still tight, Marlon Humphrey became the unexpected hero. In a critical play in the fourth quarter, the Ravens cornerback intercepted a pass from Russell Wilson and ran it all the way to the... This return not only secured the touchdown, but also gave the Ravens a 2-touchdown lead, practically sealing the victory. And for a game against the Steelers, it was even more meaningful, as facing this longtime rival always brings intense emotions for Baltimore's fans. This type of play doesn't happen every day, and when it does, the excitement is contagious. For Marlon Humphrey, it was a historic moment, his first career pick-6. He's always been a strong presence in the Ravens' defense, but this touchdown stood out in a unique way. A play like this catapults a player into the team's Hall of Heroes. And for the Ravens fan, seeing Humphrey shine like that in a classic game against the Steelers was something truly special. The fans knew that Humphrey's action had delivered a fatal blow to the rival, and the excitement in the stadium was palpable. But this victory wasn't just about the score. For the Ravens and their fans, it was about asserting dominance over an opponent that always presents challenges. The way the Ravens performed on the field, especially with Humphrey's contribution, showcased the team's strength and their ability to take control when it mattered most. This victory undoubtedly left a mark on every fan's heart, especially knowing that it was achieved through a brilliant play from one of the defense's key players. But how did the NFL respond to Humphrey's shining moment? When Marlon Humphrey intercepted that pass from Russell Wilson and ran it back for a touchdown, it wasn't just another play. For the Ravens defender, that moment was historic. That pick-6 was his first career interception return for a touchdown, something he had tried many times before, but always fell short. And when he finally made it happen, the joy was indescribable, not only for him, but also for all the fans in Baltimore. After all, in such an important game against the Steelers, a play like that is worth its weight in gold, especially for someone like Humphrey, who had always been a standout player, but never had a touchdown return until that. This first pick-6 meant more than just adding points to the board. It represented the type of play that defines careers. And for Marlon Humphrey, it was a milestone. The Ravens fans, who have followed his journey for years, knew he was capable of it. But the fact that he did it in a classic game against the Steelers made it even sweeter. For a player so respected in Baltimore's defense, the feeling of finally achieving such a long-awaited play must have been a unique sensation. This type of accomplishment only strengthens Humphrey's legacy within the franchise, elevating him even more as an icon for the fans. However, despite the positive impact of this historic play, things didn't go as Humphrey expected. The shine of his big play was overshadowed by something unexpected, a fine from the NFL. But what really caused all the controversy after Humphrey's pick-6? After the interception and the touchdown return, Marlon Humphrey found himself in the center of a controversy. During his run to the end zone, he made a gesture with the ball, waving it toward the Steelers' receiver, Calvin Austin III. This gesture was interpreted by the NFL as taunting, something the league doesn't tolerate. As a result, the NFL fined Humphrey $11,255 for unsportsmanlike conduct. To many, Humphrey's gesture didn't seem like taunting at all, but more like a celebration, especially in such an important game with a decisive victory for the Ravens. However, the NFL has strict rules about what is and isn't acceptable on the field, and this led to a penalty that surprised many fans. What was even more surprising was that Humphrey, in his defense, explained that he didn't intend to provoke anyone. He said he was trying to toss the ball to his teammate, David Ohabo, as a kind of playful moment between friends. To him, there was no malice in the gesture, and he simply wanted to share that joyful moment with the team. The situation quickly turned into a debate. Did the NFL overreact in interpreting Humphrey's gesture as taunting, or was he rightfully penalized? The incident sparked discussion among fans and analysts, with many questioning the logic behind the fine. This episode raised an important reflection on how players celebrate their victories and the fine line between emotion and respect for the league. But Humphrey wasn't the only one involved in controversial plays and fines during the Steelers game. Who else ended up paying for their actions on the field? Well, we're already past the halfway point of our video, but I noticed you haven't liked this video yet. It's really important for YouTube to continue promoting my content to you, so I can keep bringing it to you. So go ahead, leave that like. It's free, okay? Let's keep going. After the fine and controversy caused by the NFL, Marlon Humphrey didn't hesitate to defend himself. In a post-game interview, the Ravens cornerback clearly explained that his intention was never to provoke any. He mentioned that while running the ball toward the end zone, he saw his teammate David Ohabo, and thought of making a joke by attempting to pass him the ball. For Humphrey, the gesture wasn't taunting. It was simply an attempt to share that moment with a teammate. The player was surprised by how the NFL interpreted his action and made it clear that there was no intent to disrespect the opponent. His explanation made sense to many, especially to Ravens fans, who know that Humphrey has always been a respectful player both on and off the field. His intention was simply to celebrate his play and connect with the team. However, the NFL has its rules, and regardless of interpretation, they decided to apply the fine. This raises the question, how far do players' freedoms to express their joy go, and where does the line of respect for the opponent start? The situation led many to question if the league went too far by punishing what seemed to be, at its core, an innocent gesture. Despite the controversy, Marlon Humphrey stood firm in his position, showing that for him, friendship and fun with his teammates will always be more important than any fine or penalty. And what if Humphrey's situation wasn't the only controversial incident on the field? While Marlon Humphrey dealt with his own controversy, Steelers safety Minkah Fitzpatrick was also in the spotlight, receiving a fine of $11,255 for unsportsmanlike conduct. Fitzpatrick was fined for a face mask against Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers, a penalty that occurred after Fitzpatrick grabbed Flowers' helmet mask, resulting in a penalty. This wasn't Fitzpatrick's only fine, as he was also penalized for a late hit on Flowers in the first game between the two teams this season. These penalties against Fitzpatrick arose at a time when the NFL was closely monitoring player behavior, especially in high-risk games like the one against the Ravens. Fitzpatrick's situation sparked similar discussions to Humphrey's, as fans questioned whether the fines were fair or excessive. While many believed that Fitzpatrick's infractions were clear and deserved punishment, others wondered if the NFL should be so strict with gestures and plays that, to them, weren't so serious. The issue of fines in the NFL remains a recurring topic, especially when it comes to behaviors involving physical contact, celebrations, or even subtler actions. Just like with Humphrey's case, fans were divided on what should truly be penalized and what could be considered part of the game's excitement. These fines, both for Humphrey and Fitzpatrick, reflect how the league handles player behavior on the field and raise questions about the limits between competitiveness and respecting the rules. But as fines are discussed, the Ravens' focus is now on what really matters, the next game. Marlon Humphrey didn't expect his celebration after the pick six to turn into a problem with the NFL. The gesture of waving the ball toward Calvin Austin III in the direction of the Steelers player was interpreted by the league as taunting, which led to a fine of $11,255 for unsportsmanlike conduct. But was this fine fair? For many, Humphrey's gesture seemed more like a celebration than an actual attempt to provoke the opponent. After all, he had already secured the win for the Ravens with a play that was pure emotion. Instead of focusing only on Humphrey's action, the league should have taken into account the context of the situation, especially in such a heated rivalry game against the Steelers. What's interesting about this situation is that Humphrey was clear in explaining his intent. He stated that he wasn't trying to provoke anyone, but rather making a friendly gesture to his teammate, David Ohabo. For him, it was a celebration with his team, not an attempt to disrespect the opponent. Humphrey's defense sparked an interesting debate among Ravens and NFL fans about how far player celebrations should be tolerated, and when they cross the line, it is something unacceptable. It's a topic that divides opinions and will always generate controversy, but it also highlights how competitive spirit can be misinterpreted. This episode not only raises questions about player behavior on the field, but also challenges how NFL rules handle celebrations and player actions after decisive moments. The way Humphrey behaved after his big play was exciting, but it brought unexpected consequences. Now, the lingering question is, how will future celebrations from other players be analyzed by the league, and how might that impact the game's atmosphere in the future? So, what do you think, fan? As you can see, Marlon Humphrey's situation was more complex than it first appeared. A gesture that should have been celebratory ended up causing an unexpected fine. And now the question is, was the NFL fair in this case? Humphrey tried to explain that he didn't intend to provoke anyone, but the league made its decision. This raises the question, how much should celebrations and actions on the field be tolerated? Now, I want to know your thoughts on all of this. Do you think Humphrey was wronged, or did the NFL act correctly? Leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on everything happening with the Ravens and not miss any news about our team.